What's up, guys? Father Dimitri here, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Today we are going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, the kingdom of heaven. I Vasilia ton uranon. Jesus talks about the kingdom over and over and over again, and the disciples are constantly asking him about the kingdom, about how to get there, about what it's like. And today, the Gospel of Matthew, the disciples ask a question of Jesus, and they say, who will be greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Over and over, the disciples show their sort of worldly thinking, where they assume that the kingdom of heaven is like a worldly kingdom, where there's power, where there's authority. And they were concerned that they wanted to essentially be in a place of authority. They wanted to assume that they were going to have some kind of power. They were giving everything up to follow Jesus. And I'm sure that they wanted to know that, that there's going to be a reward. There will be some value at the end of this journey that they were on. And over again, Christ flips up the model. He flips it upside down, and he really inverts the way that we normally think about the world, the way we think about power, the way we think about authority. And he turns everything really on its head. And he says, there was a child nearby, and he puts the child in the midst of them, and he says, unless you become like this little one, and like this little child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. He says, unless you humble yourself like this child, you won't enter. And so Christ used this image over and over again of being childlike. And in another gospel, it says, who really thinks about what it means to be childlike? But Christ really elevates that childlike simplicity, the childlike innocence, a child's ability to love, a child's ability to trust, to show compassion. Right? Children are naturally inclined to being loving, to being caring, to being guileless, to be very non-judgmental. And there's a lot that we can learn from children. And Christ says, if you be like this child, that's good for you. But he also says, if you lead any of these little ones astray, it will be better for you if a big millstone, which is a huge stone that would roll around to crush the wheat, for that to be thrown, tied around your neck, and then thrown so you're drowned in the depths of the sea. Christ sometimes can be pretty harsh, and he shows us that there will be accountability for our actions. And so he says, you need to sort of tread lightly. You need to be careful while following the commandments, following what I'm trying to teach you, but also to be respectful of other people. Which leads into the next point where he says, if your brother or your sister offends you, go to them quietly behind closed doors and try to rectify the situation. Try to fix whatever offense or whatever happened between you and your brother, between you and your sister. And so let's compare that to sometimes the way that people act in the world now, where someone offends me, and instead of quietly, with compassion, with dignity and integrity, to approach that person face to face and say, look, it really bothered me what you did. It hurt me, right? And fix that problem. Instead, what we tend to do, or what we could do, is to publicly humiliate or shame that person, to publicly call that person out, and to essentially backlash and to try to hurt that other person. And so Christ says, look, people are going to offend you. People are going to hurt you. People are going to sin against you. But he gives us an outline. He says, first, deal with it person to person. Go to your brother, go to your sister, and try to fix it. Then, if that doesn't work, take it up a notch. Then bring a friend, bring someone with you to back you up, to support you, to try to bring that person back to their senses. And he says, if that doesn't work, then go to level 3, which is take it to the community, take it to the whole church. And if the church or the community, the group of the body, can't bring that person in line, then you take it to the 4th level, which is treat them like the Gentiles, sort of eject them from the community, cut them off, and really take that extreme measure. But at that point, the onus is on that person who sort of offended in the beginning. Because if you don't go through those steps of trying to rectify the situation first and slowly ramping up the pressure, and then you just go 0 to 60 miles an hour and you call that person out and you humiliate them and shame them publicly, what do you think's going to happen? How is that going to bring more peace to your life? How is that going to bring more love or more compassion or more clarity to your thinking or to your actions? It's not. It's going to bring more pain. It's going to bring more frustration, more loss to you and the other person that you're shaming. Which leads us into that relational component, where Christ then says, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I will be there with you. And so there's, first of all, the inward disposition. If you want to get to the kingdom, be humble, serve your brothers and sisters, treat them with compassion, treat them with respect and love, and agree. He says, be of one mind. For where you are there, or 2 or 3, where you're gathered, there I'll be with you. And so this communal aspect to salvation, this communal aspect to the kingdom of heaven, it's not just me. It's not just you alone out there on an island trying to make it go on your own. That's not how this works, guys. This works in 2s and 3s and 10s and hundreds. Where we're gathered together, Christ is in our midst. That's why we need each other. We need our accountability. We need our love. We need that ability to rectify, to fix whatever's going on, not only in our personal life, but what's going on at a societal level, right? It branches up. It starts with an individual, but that individual surrounds themselves with 2, 3 other people. And those create those waves, those ripples. And then finally, he talks about forgiveness. Because the disciples, once again, are saying, okay, we're supposed to love and forgive, but how many times? What, once, twice, 7 times? And Christ says, no. Try 70 times 7. Try hundreds of times. And he paints this beautiful picture where he says, let's say that you owe the king 10,000 talents, which, if you do the math, doesn't quite equate to money, but it equates to years of service. So in other words, you owe the king, listen to this, 200,000 years of indentured servitude. 200,000 years. And this king, out of the benevolence and the love and the kindness in his heart, forgives you. Right? What a burden that would be. To give 200,000 years back to you. I can only imagine the joy and the elation, right, for someone who's been burdened for so long. And in this story, instead of taking that joy and multiplying it and taking that compassion and pushing more compassion into the world by forgiving others, instead I go to Joe, who owes me $6,000, or about a month, 2 or 3 months worth of work. And I don't try to rectify the situation level 1, like we talked about, man to man, and say, hey, Joe, let's talk about this. No, I go to level 10 and I say, okay, I'm going to throw you in jail. You see the simplicity in Christ's logic. He's saying, start person to person. Start face to face with compassion, with love, with accountability. And if that doesn't work, ramp it up a notch. If that doesn't work, take it to the next level. But if you go right to level 60 and I go and I say, Joe, I'm going to throw you in jail without trying to fix the problem person to person, what do you think is going to happen? That king who just found out that how much he forgave you, he is not going to be happy. And so in the same way, Christ says, be like that servant. Be like the servant who was forgiven and then goes and forgives. And so the kingdom of heaven, 4 simple things: humble yourself. If someone sins against you, deal with it with integrity and accountability, quietly. 3rd, be together and agree with each other in love and compassion. And 4, when people do offend you, forgive them. And in that way, we take one little thing from one person and we multiply it to 2 to 3 to 100 people. And in that way, an internal movement towards compassion and childlike love then can impact a family, a city, a community, and even a country. And so I pray, my prayer for today is that kingdom of heaven can be brought here, now, in our lifetime. Today, tomorrow, this year. The world needs it more than ever. Much love, and we'll see you next week.